Hello again. This is Doc Rotten from Gruesome Magazine. Joining me tonight is Vanessa. She is here to talk about a horror film with an interesting title. It is called The Blood Harvest. Oh boy. Vanessa, how you doing?
Hey Doc, I'm doing great. I still have all my blood was not harvested after watching this film.
Well, that's good to hear. This will be an interesting one because it has a very interesting description on IMDb. Onus meets the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a twisted game of kill or be killed. That makes no sense to me. What are they trying to get after with that?
Well, I would not describe this movie like any version of any chainsaw massacre out there, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But what I think the comparison is some of the murder, torture scenes call back a little bit to that because it is in a somewhat of a rural area in Ireland. So there's some stuff going on in barns and, things like that. That's the only way that I could see they're drawing the connection between Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Blood Harvest.
Yeah, I like the tagline, death, one drop at a time.
It's such a silly little film. I have to say, so it's beautiful because it's shot in Ireland, like on the countryside. So it looks beautiful. It's lush and green and vibrant. So they definitely have that going for them. And the plot itself isn't really that bad. You get this, kind of revolves around this, play by his own rules detective. He's got these wacky Fox Mulder type ideas. He's disheveled. He's a bit slobbish, overweight. That typical, I don't care anymore. Nobody believes me type of detective. So he thinks all these murders, and here's the thing. There's been 36 murders, yet the police have not told a single person about it. They're keeping it under wraps. So the families of these people that have been murdered don't know. The news doesn't know. Nobody knows. The cops are just hiding these 36 unsolved murders they can't figure out. And this detective, Jeff Chaplin, happens to think that all these murders are being committed by vampires.
Vampires. Well, that came out of the blue.
Exactly.
How do we get from Texas Chainsaw Massacre to vampires?
I know. It's a little bit difficult to follow what's going on. It's got our two killers. They wear masks, and they're brothers, but you don't really find out they're brothers until later on. And they have this very odd way of portraying these characters because it just seems they're playing in a way that appears to be mentally handicapped, but they're doing it so obnoxiously, and it just seems like they're making fun of handicapped people. So it's a little jarring to see this performance from these killers. So that's one thing that kind of takes you out of the story, but it definitely has the gore for our horror fans out there. It's got plenty of gore. They perform these murders in a very ritualistic way, which they describe why they do that later on in the film. But so seeing that from the beginning, it catches you off guard because you have no idea what's going on. So they perform these murders in a very ritualistic way, but it's these two guys and they're dressed all nice, but apparently they live out in the wild. Some of it takes place in like underground tunnels in Ireland. This movie is all over the place.
Well, it comes from writer-director George Clarke, and it features Alan Crawford, Racheal Galloway, and Griffin Madill. How is the direction? Now, you said the cinematography was pretty rich and, with lots of greens and great countrysides, but the direction, did it have some finesse to it?
It's a little bit jerky at times, trying to understand the story, and it's very different. Like, if you have any idea where it might be going from the detective thinking that the murders are committed by vampires, it's in that whole science fiction monster realm, but you don't really get a good like, it doesn't feel like a monster movie like I wish it did. They try to make it feel like a torture porn kind of movie, but you still don't get that same, it doesn't really stick in one place very well. But I have to say, it does have some amazing one-liners in it. My first favorite one-liner is a cop is talking to the detective who's been fired, is still working with his boss. They're in cahoots trying to figure out who's doing this, who's committing these murders. And they say to each other, it almost looks like they're collecting for a harvest. A harvest? Yes. A blood harvest. I love when movies put the title somewhere in the movie.
Yeah, on purpose, like right.
Yeah.
Out there in front of you. All right. Well, this sounds wonderful. I got to hear what your score is and your favorite scene, Blood Harvest.
I'd have to give it a 1 because I'm not going to watch Blood Harvest again. It has such a terrible, for every redeeming quality the movie might have, the ending just it destroys that. My favorite scene is the two brothers, these two feral, blood-sucking in a way brothers. They get into a fight because they both abduct this one good-looking blonde girl, and they get upset with each other, and so they duel to the death to be the one to consume this beautiful blonde girl. And that's my favorite part.
Perfect. All right. Well, Vanessa, thank you for another wonderful review. Let's say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Be sure to visit GruesomeMagazine.com to listen to the other gruesome podcasts, Hard News Radio, and Decades of Horror. Also check out the Gruesome Magazine Quarterly, available in digital and print-on-demand format.